Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Demko Modelworks. Jake here with you. Today we're just going to be going through and doing a little bit of work. I know I haven't done any kind of work on here in a while, and showing you just kind of the process of what I do, how I do things as far as the aztecing. Now, this is my client Ed Lamb's Reliant. This is the portside nacelle. Now I have gone through and gotten the starboard nacelle pretty much done. It's drying here. I got a little bit of painting to do. Got all the decals on it. Got it all azteced and everything. And I'll take you through here in a little bit. And once we get through here and show you what the finished product is going to look like, and that way you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to, what it's going to be. Now, he wanted this to originally, this was originally going to be the Reliant paint job, and he decided to go ahead and do it the refit style. So we're going to be going through, probably not on camera today, but going through and doing the candy cane stripe on the back, and then going through and doing pretty much all the refit markings, the Aztec way. You've seen it on another one of my videos that I've done with this. So but now we're going to go through and just kind of go through and do some of the Aztec painting. I have my sheet styrene. I've kind of gotten away from using wax paper, simply for the fact that the wax paper on it it causes these masking pieces to lose their tackiness, and then when you put them back on, especially with the orbital dry dock masking sets, the orbital dry dock, when you put them down on the refit and on the wax paper, and then you pick it up and put it back on, it loses its tackiness, especially when you peel it off, put it on, peel it 2 or 3 times. So what we're going to do is I spent earlier part of the day today getting all this done. Now this is the 537 scale refit paint masking. It doesn't quite fit the Reliant as well as it should, but there are some things that will work real well on it. So I've gone on ahead and did the inside pylon, the upper side of up here, and gotten that little area where the catty cornered diagonal stripes and stuff are. And then I'm just kind of working my way around, and I'm going to do this today, and we're going to continue on off camera and do the front piece here at the very front by the Bussard collectors, and then try to get the candy cane stripe done on this side, and then this side will be pretty much all complete, and then we just have to go around to the other side and do the same thing over there. So this took me a couple hours to do today, simply for the fact that this masking set is not like orbital dry dock. This masking, you have to pretty much peel it off one by one. So it took me a couple hours to do, and trying to get them on there straight. Now, like I said, this is the refit, so it's not going to fit exactly as well as it should for the Reliant, but it does work real well. And then one at the end, I've got these, you can see here, the tail end of the starboard side nacelle. I've got it dry. I've got the last decal on it, and then I've got to go back through and make just a little bit of a I got to go back through and paint the detail on the Bussard collectors on the front, and then that one will be through, and we'll go through there. But anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my air gun, and we're going to do our blue color first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start back here. I'm going to go top and bottom and match, because you want these to be matching all the way across as far as you can go. And so we're going to do the blue, then we're going to do the gold, the green, the red, and we're going to skip one and do it all over again. So it'll be blue, gold, green, red, white, blue, gold, green, red, same on, so on and so forth. So we're going to start back here with peeling off these back pieces. Let me zoom you in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing, and adjust the camera here. So we're going to be starting off with this top one here and pulling it off, And these pieces here, I really like these masking sets that come with come from Cameron Lewis, from Cameron's Decals and such. These masking pieces really hold their tack really well. They're not too tough to peel off, and they put back on, and once you put them up, take them off, sprayed your color and stuff, they don't lose their tackiness too much. So alright, so we got the first blue ones off here. We're going to go gold, green, red, white, and then we got to skip what's the right. So we got, some of these things are real hard to see, so let me find so I don't mess up here. So and some of these as well as on top and on bottom, they're not exactly the same size, so but we're still going to follow the same pattern. So we got gold, green, red, white, blue. So pretty much every sixth one we're going to do blue. So we're going to do gold, green, red, white. Got my pump over there all, it's got a leak in it somewhere. Gold, blue, green, red, white. And have not had a chance yet to send back the board for William Jackson's Kestra. Been busy with it and haven't had a chance to send it in, but we are going to send it in tomorrow so I can get it back, so we get that one finished up. Just have a few decals to put on it and it will be good to go. So alright, so gold, green, red, white, blue. And some of these maskings kind of have a tendency to bend with the when you peel them off, they kind of deform, but don't worry, they'll go back down pretty easily. Gold, green, red, white. And sometimes you may be able to peel them up easier from the bottom, so that's probably what we'll do. Now I will tell you, when you're sticking these on and they do get, and it does get too hot and you leave them on too long, there is a chance that you can peel the paint off and leave a little bit of stickiness behind, and that you don't want. So make sure that when you stick them down, you spray I really recommend you spray and get them back off, so that way it doesn't take a chance on ruining your paint job. There's the top, so now we'll do the bottom. Oops. Green, red. Alright, now we got all that done. Now we'll go through and do our blue, put our first dot down, because we have 3 different colors going on. So we're going to do blue as our first as our first dot, so we put one dot on our mask. So now we'll move this out of the way. Make sure I back up just a little bit so you can see. So now we have our blue. Got to make sure, guys, whenever you use this stuff, make sure this is the McKenzie taxidermy. This is the McKenzie taxidermy paint. I just put it in smaller bottles, easier to carry around. But make sure that whenever you set these set for a day or two and you don't use them, when you go back, make sure you shake them up. And I mean, you're going to have to really get something down in there and stir them up, because the pigments settle at the bottom and they start sticking together. And if you just shake it up, you're just going to have basically lacquer, and you're not going to have the color show up real well. So you're going to have to really stick something down in there and really kind of get it stirred up at the bottom and then shake it up a little bit. The blue and the gold are not so bad, but the green and the reds will settle. The red will settle real bad, and it will cause problems if you don't stir it up. So we're going to add a little bit of blue. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't cover this up right here, well, it's got tape on it. So, and I'll explain that. It covers the flux chiller, inboard flux chiller grill, and I'll go through later on the other one and show you how how I paint it and then take care of it, so we'll get the lines and everything. So, all right, so we'll do a test shot. So there we go. So now we can start spraying. There we go. It came through now. All right. So now we have our blue on there. So we'll give this a little bit of a dry. Alright, so I'm going to go off camera, clean my airbrush, let this dry for a minute, come back, and we'll, off camera, I'll put the other ones on and take the other ones off for gold, and we'll do the same thing for that. So we'll see you in just a few minutes, guys. Alright guys, welcome back. So now I got my blue all put up, put it back on, now the masking's put back on. And now I took my gold off, so now we have, we put 2 dots on these, because it's our second color. So now I loaded up my airbrush, and let's get painting. So here we go. Alright, give this a dry. Alright, we're going to let that dry for a second and go off camera, and well, actually I just put these back on, and then I go off camera and get set up for the green. So here we go. So now that these are dry, now I will recommend, guys, that when you do, if you're using orbital dry dock, certain masks will start flying off once you start using them a couple of times. So I would suggest, especially with the blue, they're really bad. The blue is really bad about wanting to fly off, especially if you're using orbital dry dock. But I really recommend, guys, that each time you use a different color, you turn down your pressure on your airbrush. That way you don't have the problem with masking fly off. So just a little tip for you guys on that, just a little helpful hint on there, so that way we can, you don't have problems and have to buy another masking set, or end up ruining your paint job, because that's this hobby is not cheap, and these masking sets are not cheap either. So that's why I really recommend that each time you do every time you do a different color, you turn the volume, your air pressure volume down. That way you don't lose a chance blowing a mask off somewhere. Almost done with the top. And we'll work our way on the bottom. Alright, there's that. So now we're going to be going to our third color, which will be our green. So we'll start peeling off. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera, clean up my airbrush, get set up for the green, and then peel those off for the third color, and we'll come right back, guys, so stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back. So now we have our gold put back on, our airbrush cleaned out, and I've got my green here labeled with 3 dots since it's our third color, and got our green loaded up in our air gun, so here we go. Alright, that looks good to me, so we'll give it a little bit of an air dry. Alright, we'll put these back on and go for our final color. So now some of you may be asking or wondering what I do for my airbrush in between each color, each color of paint. I for this particular type of paint, since they are lacquer based, I use lacquer thinner for sometimes, and but just pretty much in between each color I use just a little bit of acetone that you could pick up for a couple of bucks, a couple of dollars a bottle at Walmart, and just dump down in there, and I just take a Q-tip and rub down in the tub to get the paint out, dump it out, add just a little more acetone and spray it out. That way you get all the the coloration out of the tub. That way it doesn't cross the paint, mix paint, and you don't have you won't have a odd looking paint. So and then at the end of the night I'll clean it out with acetone, lacquer thinner, and then just leave just a little bit in the tub for a couple hours and come back and clean it out. That way it doesn't eat up the rings and stuff like that. So alright, so now we got all the greens back on. So what I'm going to do now is go off camera for the final time and get the reds off, clean my airbrush out, and get set up for the red. So we'll be back in just a few minutes, guys. Hold on. Alright guys, well here we are back with the final color of the red. Now I have all the reds off. Now you on most of the time when you do these 4-color masking sets, you get down to the last color, you don't have to put the last, you have to mark them where you have to put them back on, because we're going to be taking them right back off. So we've got our red loaded up in the gun, and we're going to actually I see one that I'm going to extra one that I'm going to take off, because it's actually small and it's going to leave 2 spots. So we're going to go ahead and take one more off. Alright, right there. Give us a good one. Now Boyd Crompton made a good point about this. The red is real thin, so you're pretty much going to have to do this in 2 coats, because it's so pale that you're not going to hardly see it. So you have to spray it on a good coat, then dry it, and then spray another coat on it and dry it again, and then you'll have a real good color. So So I've got our red loaded up into our gun, so here we go. Do a test shot here. Turn my pressure up a little bit. So you're gonna have to, sometimes you have to clean the tip out. Sometimes it gets clogged up and get all that gunk in there. Alright, so we got enough coming out, so there it goes. Sometimes it just gets a little piece of pigment or something in there, a big clump in there, just to get it to where it won't spray. So, alright, so let's dry that real quick and we'll put another coat on. Alright. Alright, spray just a little bit more there. Alright, there you have it. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and, since this is, you know, pretty much dry, you can go ahead and take off our paint masks. Just be very careful that when you're peeling them off, because they are still, the paint is still very soft, and you can damage the paint job on that, and that would be, it'd kind of suck if you had to start it all over again. And believe me, it's happened. But if something like that happens, guys, don't get discouraged. Don't throw the model away. It's just plastic. It can be repainted. Things happen. Like I said, don't get discouraged. It is fixable. You know, you may have to do a little bit more to fix it, but in the end, just take your time and don't try to really get in there with these tweezers. You know, with tweezers, or some people use a toothpick, or they use their knife to get in there and pluck them off. So just be very, very careful when you do. Peel them off slow. We'll get all this peeled off. I'll get my airbrush cleaned out, and we'll come back for the final. We get all these paints, you know, off these. After I get this picked off, I'm gonna pretty much go off camera, get my airbrush cleaned up, and come back with the final result after all this. You know, after what it looks like after all the tape is peeled off, and look at the other nacelle and call it a wrap for the day, guys. Most of you pretty much know about how all this stuff goes, so. And I also learned a trick, because some of this stuff may have ridges on it in between coats, and so what you can do is, if you have ridges, and you will, what you can do is take a piece of paper towel, don't wet it or anything, and just run over the edge of it real softly, run over your paint, and it'll get rid of those ridges and any dusting that might happen, and it won't hurt your paint. So you can see pretty much there how well it turned out. I don't know if you can see it or not. So, but anyway, give me a few minutes to clean this, get these maskings off, and later on I'm going to be going through and doing this area right here, and then right here in the front of the chiller grill, and then we're gonna, you know, everything else. So I'll be right back, and stay tuned, guys. Alright guys, welcome back. And now we have all of our masking peeled off and the tape peeled off. I left this on so I could do this in a little bit, but you can see it turned out really well. Here, I don't know if you can get a real good light on it. Let me zoom in a little bit, see if it'll show. But you might be able to see it in the light, but you can see all the colors there. Let me zoom out just a little bit. It might pick up a little more. Sorry if it's a little noisy in here, guys. Got a little toasty, so I had to turn my unit on, my AC on, so we could get you know, some air going. But all the colors turned out really pretty, and you can see all the work that I've already done here and all the inside of the nacelle on the top there, just like the refit. So we're going to let this cure up for a little while. We're going to do, then we're going to go back through and do the this area, and then, you know, this side, and then work on the candy cane stripe here. Now with this one, the refit masks for the 537 scale doesn't really work well on this because of the fact that it this nacelle for the Reliant is a little more rounded, a little more curved. So it doesn't want to stick very well. So what I'm having to do is use, if you can see it real well, if you can see it or not, right here, I'm having to use a bunch of these from my buddy Cameron that sent me, and these work real well. This size right here worked real well for the candy cane stripe. So I'm using a bunch of these and just kind of masking them off, and I'm putting a bunch of them on there. And once I do that, I go back through and cut them in the areas that I want to make it look like the brick and mortar area. So, but we're gonna let that dry for a while and come back and go from there. But this is the what the finished product is gonna look like. Let me zoom out a little bit. But I got just one little area here. I've got some a light leak that I had to fix up here on the Bussard collector, and then I can go back through and paint. And this whole nacelle is complete, guys. Once I got it all finished up and put my gloss coat on there, put my decals on, and this one's ready to go to be attached to the ship, guys. So you know, I used my my copper. I used all my colors, you know, that I needed to. Here, the candy cane stripe, I don't know if you can see it real well, but let me zoom in and I'll show you. But if you can pick up the you know, all the blues and the golds and all that stuff, we didn't skimp on any of the colors. So got all that done, and that's basically what I was telling you guys, is I just took all those pieces of tape and just you know, lined them up and spaced them out so I can do my mortar pattern. And then I went through, or I sprayed, you know, spaced them out, sprayed all my colors, and went back through with my gold and sprayed over that real dark to where you can see it, and it turned out real well. Now on the bottom side of this, I will tell you guys that if you use the orbital dry dock masking set, it's basically pretty much all of them are just random pattern for all over the ship. So basically what I did is I just took some thicker strips in different sizes and just laid them across the bottom side here, and basically all I did was use I used some of the smaller pieces for the vinyl there, the vinyl strips, but most of this I did by just using plain old simple masking tape, guys. It's just you know, different. What I did is I just took different sizes of my masking tape here and ran it across, sprayed it, moved it, and sprayed it, you know, so that way it just turned out the way it did till I got all my colors down. So, but it turned out real well, guys. This one's pretty much complete. Now, a lot of you guys out there order from Don's Light and Magic that y'all use the inserts. Well, I can tell you, you don't have to use those inserts. One, it can mess up when you're cutting. You can overcut and you have to go back through and light block and all that kind of stuff. Well, what I did for this one is this plastic is pretty much thin enough to where you can run light behind it. So when I prepping it for paint and primer, I put tape on the inside and on the outside here. That way no paint would get on it or anything. And I kind of actually, before I did that, I sanded a couple of times with 150 grit sandpaper so it would diffuse the light a little bit. Then I put my tape down on the inside and then did my light block and everything else, and it shows through really well, guys. So and if you're wondering how I did the in-between colors there, let me turn my power supply on so you can see it. In the in-between lines is basically fairly simple on this, guys. Well, let me get my lighter and fix this real quick, because I thought I had it turned off, you know, cleaned up to where you could see it. And you can see how I did that, guys. Just pretty much a lighter at the end, and just to tin that wire a little bit, or to, you know, get some of that stuff off. And it'll come, you know. So let me turn my light off here. See if I can't get you in the shade, but you can see there. Let me zoom in for you so you can see it. Oops, lost one of my connections here. Now, if you're wondering how I got those lines down in there, well, pretty much what I did is I sprayed, you know, I taped off around the edges real good, and I sprayed it, you know, a real good coat, you know, a medium coat of black on the entire set of flux, you know, on the entire area. And then before it dried completely, I used my scribing tool and just kind of lightly went through there and just scraped off all the black and down in the recessed areas, and then just kind of took a pick and just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. So, but you can see how really well that turned out and how, you know, nice and bright that is. So when it comes on for Ed, it'll be nice and bright. So pretty much that's it, guys. And we're going to call this one a wrap on this nacelle. Like I said, I've got just a little bit of a detail paint to do right up in here. Oops, sorry guys, the camera was a little bit too far in. But I got just a little bit of work to do here, and then we're going to call this nacelle a wrap, guys. And like I said, we're going to be, you know, once all this is on the ship and everything, I'll go back through with my dull coat and you know, spray the matte color on it. But anyway, guys, that's it for this episode. You know, we'll be back for another edition, more update on my client William's Kestra build once we get the board in there, and we'll call that one a wrap too, guys. So until then, guys, we'll see you next week, or maybe later on this week with another update. And until then, guys, take care, stay safe, and happy modeling, everybody.